All right, hello, wine-drinking people. Back with more of what I've had to drink yesterday, and this job just keeps getting better. And I kind of, walk into work, and I just am amazed by the lineup of celebrity wine people that we have coming into the Wine Watch on a weekly basis. My rep called me and said, "Hey, man, I've got Tim Mondavi. Do you want me to stop by to taste you on his new Continuum wine?" Well, Carissa Mondavi was in a couple of years ago, and this is one of the first families of Napa Valley. And of course I want to meet with Tim Mondavi. You're kidding me? I mean, I got to have lunch with Michael a couple years ago, even got to sit with Dad, Robert Mondavi, years ago. Well, not by myself with him, but with 30 other people, of course. But, what an energetic man. This is a guy that started his own business at age 50. I'm only 43. I took it a couple years ago before I get serious. And, well, of course, his family's been in the wine business since 1919 in California. And Tim took over the winemaking responsibilities at Robert Mondavi Winery in 1974, a legendary vintage. We showed that 74 vintage wine a couple years back here at one of our vertical tastings, Mondavi Reserve Vertical, and that wine is still drinking brilliantly. And, when you look at the Robert Mondavi Winery, they coined it the test tube winery because, man, they had a lot of experiments going on there. A lot of the key figures in Napa Valley went through there. If you look at the two guys that won the Paris tasting for their wines, Warren Winarski at Stag's Leap Winery, first winemaker there. Mike Gergich, the second winemaker at Robert Mondavi Winery, he won the Paris tasting for his Montelena Chardonnay. And, they've had a slew of great people come through there. Paul Hobbs, Zelma Long, and, Tim Mondavi, the guiding force behind the winemaking style at Robert Mondavi Winery until 2003 or 4, whatever Constellation Brands took over the winery and kicked all the Mondavis out. So a tragic story. The House of Mondavi, a very compelling book. And, well, Tim didn't read it because it didn't make Tim look so great. But, I told Tim, don't feel bad. These writers, they want drama. The reason that they put all that stuff in there is because, it keeps people reading the book. It keeps them glued to the pages. Of course, some of it may not have been, 100% correct. There's two sides to every story. But still, I don't think you can deny the success that the Mondavi family has had. And they're all good people. I tell you, everybody that I've met from the family, really down-to-earth people, really easy to talk to. As Tim was, it was really cool to spend a little bit of time with him here yesterday in the store. And his Continuum wine, well, the first vintage of it was 2005. This was, after he got booted out of the winery, he was making it from Tocolon fruit, 2006, 2007. He began to use some of the fruit from his newly acquired Pritchard Hill Vineyard, the old Cloudview property from the Lighton family. Fabulous wines. We were on the bandwagon with Cloudview from day one. His wine is markedly different. Well, it's mostly Cabernet as opposed to mostly Merlot. Their wine had a high percentage of Merlot in it. And, this vineyard site, you've got a lot of big names up there on Pritchard Hill. You've got Bryant, you've got Colgan. Right next door to them is Chapelet. You've got David Arthur up there. Slew of really killer juice up here. So, the Mondavis know Napa Valley like very few people do. And Tim was looking for a vineyard. He grabbed the whole entire, I guess there was 2 parcels he had to grab up there. But, incredible site. And one day they'll be making upwards of 5,000 cases. But, for a guy like Tim, that's a part-time job. He used to run Robert Mondavi Winery, travel the world. He, was a part of all their joint ventures that they started. Opus One being the very first one. Luce in Italy. Had a joint venture in Australia with Rosemount. They had one with the Chadwick family down in Chile. These guys were on fire, and I'm sure it's nice to just take a step back and make one wine. Okay, well, they are making a second wine, which not available here in the state of Florida. Just the Continuum wine, which the 2010 is the current release. This was a cooler vintage and really excellent wine. This wine's still a baby. Really hard to get much out of the nose here. He uses more Burgundian techniques than Bordeaux, than what people use to make Bordeaux's. A lot of new French oak. He likes to stir the cap, likes to rack the wine and bottle it unfined and unfiltered. Well, they only rack it 3 times. Really minimal intervention here in terms of making the wine. And a lot of great winemakers have said, the best wines we've made, they pretty much make themselves. But this one's a very fresh wine on the nose, some dark currant and cassis berry fruit, a good amount of earth here, which is what you get from mountain wine, some violets and licorice, graphite. Like I said, a little bit closed on the nose. I kept this wine, pretty much open the rest of the day as long as I could hold out before drinking the whole thing. And I have to say, it did open up a little bit, but still, this 2010 vintage is going to need some time. This wine's really rich and well endowed, though, on the palate, showing some lovely fruit after you get it in the mouth of dark berry, fruit currant, cassis, with that graphite minerality showing all the way to the finish. Some pretty floral notes and lovely concentration and richness. And it does batonnage in barrel also, which is unique. I don't hear a lot of people doing that with Bordeaux varietals. But anyways, this takes out a little bit of the color. People love color, but he adds a little complexity to the wine. And, who is going to question the great Tim Mondavi about his winemaking techniques? This guy has, made a lot of wine and learned a lot along the way. And I'd have to say the Continuum, most excellent juice this 2010 vintage from Tim Mondavi, and he's got 4 of his siblings working with him, so it's great to see them carrying on the family name there. All right, well, that's what I had to drink with Tim Mondavi, his new Continuum wine. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying, remember, always drink the good stuff first.